Hi everyone, Annette Kessler here with a new video tutorial, and today we are learning about wow effects for card making. So today we are making a spinner card with a tree spinning in the middle, and I've pre-cut the two pieces that I need to make my card. I'm going to start with the larger one and fold it in half. I'm using a double-sided cardstock as a base for all my cards. And in the cutting guide you have all the descriptions of all the types of papers that you need. Then you fold each of the edges towards the center in half again, so you'll have 4 panels. This is the part for the front window of the card. Okay, it's not the base, I'm sorry. I'm going to put the base aside. This is the front window of the card. So next we need to make our window. So what we're going to do is measure 1/2 inch from the top and 1/2 inch from the bottom, and then 1/2 inch from the right fold line and the left fold line. Then we're going to cut all those lines to create a window. So I'm going to use a ruler and a pencil to make sure that I measure everything accurately. So 1/2 inch, going to make 2 dots and then draw a line. We can later erase that line, of course. And then 1/2 inch from the top and the bottom edges, just to make sure that the lines are straight. I can do it directly with the trimmer, but I just want to make sure that I don't overcut, because the window needs to be accurate. So drawing those lines as well. And then lastly, measure another 1/2 inch from that left fold line. So the window is going to be in the center of our card. Once you have all the lines drawn, you can cut them out with a ruler and a craft knife, or you can use a trimmer and simply follow the lines. Now the next thing is just make sure it folds properly. Okay, the next thing is to attach the twine. This is how it's going to go. So we're going to attach the twine to the center of the window. So I'm just using a plain white twine, whatever you have. I'm flipping this over, and I'm going to use just 2 pieces of paper folded in half. It's the same paper, the same cardstock that I use for the card. And I'm going to put some glue on the back of those pieces and use that piece to sandwich the twine in between and secure it. You see that that little piece is the same width as the top of the window and the bottom of the window, so it won't show. Just align the 2 folds together of the little piece and of the window so it will fold properly. So once you have the twine ready, you see this is very straight. Let's just fold the base of the card in half. Okay, and then fold the cover paper in half as well and attach it to the center of the base. You can choose any shape that you want. If you have a Santa or gifts or any type of holiday shape that you want. So I cut 2 triangles and 2 little trunks, and the first thing to do is to apply glue to the back side of one of the shapes. We need to make a sandwich. That's why we need two shapes. Attaching the little trunk. We're going to put one shape on one side of the twine and then sandwich the twine with the other shape. Just making sure that the tree is straight. The twine is supposed to go in the center of the shape. And then I'm going to apply glue to the back of the other triangle and sandwich the twine in between them. So now I'm just attaching the little trunk first, making sure nothing moves and the twine stays in the center. So I'm attaching the trunk and then I'll attach the other triangle. And then just leave it to dry for a few minutes. Then you'll have your spinner element. See how cool that is? So once that's dry, we apply glue to the back side of the right and left panels and attach them to the base of the card. Pretty easy, but really cool effect. Okay, we're not attaching the top and the bottom parts of the window. There is no glue there. We need them to pop out so the tree will have room to spin. Like this. So now I promised you we'd fix that problem with the tree. And what we're going to do is add another fold. So what I did is folded the top and bottom frames part of the windows like this, added two valley folds here and on the bottom. You can glue that if you want, but it's not necessary, and this makes the tree fold more to the inside. This is how it looks. So we have a few pieces for this card. We are going to start with the base, and we're going to do some scoring on all the pieces of the card. And we're going to start with scoring the base, and we're going to score it at 2.5 and 7.5. It's easier to follow along if you pre-cut all your pieces according to the cutting guide, and then you make the card with me. So we score it at 2.5 and 7.5, and then we fold it. Basically, it's a basic gatefold card at this point, and later we're going to turn it into a shutter fold card. Next, we're going to bring the center panel for the card, and we're going to score that as well. This is how the base looks. And the center panel, we're going to align it with the long side on the top horizontally, and then we're going to score it at 1/2 inch and 7.5. Basically, we're creating two tabs, one on the top and one on the bottom. And I'm going to fold those as well. Next, we are going to bring the shutter pieces. We have two pieces for the shutter, and we're going to score them at 1/2 inch on the long side, of course, and fold them as well. So now that we have done all the scoring, can put aside the trimmer or the scoreboard depending what you're using. Going to fold the shutter pieces, and then we can move ahead with making the card. So we're going to first cover the base with the cover papers, and you have again all the measurements for all that in the cutting guide that you can download from the link in the description under the video. And this is where you can play with your colors and your patterns to make whatever design of a card that you want. So I'm covering the inside of the card, and also I'm going to cover the doors or the sides, the folding sides on the outside. So I've played with some green and red. Of course you can, like I said, use whatever papers you have in your stash. So once we have all that glued down, we can go ahead and continue. We're going to bring the center panel, and we're going to make a hole in the center of the panel. It's a 2.5 inch hole approximately. You can play with the hole. It can be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, and you can use whatever circle cutting system that you have. Mine is pretty old. It used to called Colossal. They don't produce it anymore. It doesn't exist. If you go to the store and look for it, it's not there. But any other circle cutting system, a punch or whatever you have, you can even draw a circle and cut with scissors. So I'm going to start with the cover paper first, and then I'm going to align it with my center panel and trace the circle and cut that out as well. So like I said, 2.5 inch in diameter, that's what your circle should be. And now that I have the circle traced, it's not a problem making the circle, the hole, exactly in the same place. This is the opening for the shutter. This is where the magic will happen. So I'm going to cut that out, and then I'm going to attach the cover paper to the front of the center panel. Just removing the pencil lines, and then I'll be able to glue them together. Looks really good. Let's attach them together. I like to work with liquid glue because it allows me to wiggle the paper and move it a little bit and align it to where I want it to be before the glue dries. It gives me some seconds to move the paper. But you can also work with double-sided tape or dry glue if you are more comfortable with that. That's up to you. Okay, so now my front panel is ready, and what I need is the circle behind the panel, what the shutter will open and close, what you will see when the shutter opens and closes. So basically it needs to be any type of image. You can stamp the image, you can use a piece of your pattern paper or whatever you want. It has to be visible through the circle. So you apply glue to the back side of this piece, and of course it needs to be smaller than the front panel so you won't see it peeping off the sides. So align it with the hole while you're holding the piece, and then align the top score line of the panel with the top of the card, centering it as well. And once that's aligned, you'll be able to glue down that piece behind the panel. Make sure that it's not peeping from the sides. Make sure it's straight. And this way, everything is aligned. Okay. Now we can go ahead, secure that to the card. We're going to bring in the shutter pieces and make a mark. So what we're going to find is the center, and that is 1 3/4. We're going to make a little mark at 1 3/4, which is the center. Then turn the card with the fold score line on the left, and then align the ruler with 1.5 inches, and then make another mark in, it's not the center but inside the shape, and from that mark we're going to draw a diagonal line to the corner and then another diagonal line to the other corner. Basically, this is the triangle that we're going to cut out to create the shutter. You can use a ruler and a craft knife or scissors to cut the triangle out, the first piece, and then use the first piece as a template to trace or to cut the other piece the same way. Make sure not to cut where the score line is. We need to cut on the other edge. So this is the 2 shutter pieces that are going to open and close and reveal that image that we glued down under the circle. Just make sure everything is straight. I'm erasing the pencil marks. And now we are going to assemble everything. So what you need to do first is apply glue to the top flap of the center panel, and then fold it down and align it with the card and the image in the center, and attach the center panel to the card. Once that's glued, make sure it's straight, no glue anywhere. Okay, so once that's glued, there's a little piece of, okay, remove that. Once that's glued, apply glue to the bottom flap and attach it to the card as well. So now everything is already aligned and straight in the center. Now we are going to attach the shutter pieces. So combine them together like this, and they're closed. You can see that when they meet in the center, that is the point that you need to look for when you attach them. So hold them together and insert them under the center panel above the image like this, and place that center, that point where the 2 shutter pieces meet, place it in the center of the circle. You can eyeball it or you can measure it. You can also look on the sides and see that the shutter pieces are aligned with the edges of the paper and the score lines on the sides. Just make sure it's in the middle when it's closed like this, and then we can go ahead and attach them. The way to do that is apply glue to those parts that stick out, that pop out of the right and left of the center panel. These are the tabs or the flaps. We're going to apply glue on that while the shutter pieces are still closed, and then close the side to secure. We're going to do that exactly the same thing on the other side. And it's very tempting to open it and see that it works, but please wait a few seconds until the glue dries. I know it's hard. Okay, So now we're going to wait until it's dry. Then I'm going to show you, look at that. Now the shutter opens and closes and it looks really cool. I'm going to add just a little bit of embellishing on the inside. This part is completely up to you. You can stamp, you can add stickers, you can embellish with cutouts, or just leave it as is, depending on the paper that you use to cover the card. Maybe you have a busy pattern paper and you don't want to add anything on it. You can write your message on it. You can do whatever you want at this point to embellish the card. This is also optional. You can leave the card without anything. You can add a ribbon instead if you want. And then I'm also going to add this tree to make it a little bit prettier. Now I'm just inserting this to close the card, and the card is ready. Of course, you can add more embellishments in the front if you want. Love this card. It has a really cool wow effect with the shutter opening and closing. So until now we have made one shutter card and one spinner card, and now we're going to make an explosion card that is a really pretty effect. So we're going to fold our card base in half. It's pretty easy. And then we're going to use a plain printer paper for the explosion part. You can use just a regular pattern paper as well. It doesn't have to be plain printer paper, just as long as it's thin enough for all the folding that we're going to do. So we're going to start folding this. I have added some stamping on it, but again, you can use a ready-made pattern paper. So I'm going to cut it to size. You have all the measurements in the cutting guide that you can download from the description under the video. And again, you don't have to use a plain printer paper. You can just use a pattern paper. Not cardstock paper, because we need to do some folding. So now we have a square. I also added some letters, some stamping. Now we're going to start folding corner to corner to create a diagonal line. Then we're going to open it and fold it exactly the same way to the other two corners again. So we'll have a large X, two diagonal lines. Now we're going to flip the paper and bring the bottom all the way to the top to create a horizontal line, fold line. Let's flip it back, and now you see that if you press these two parts towards the inside, you can fold it into a triangle like this. The paper will kind of show you where to go. Now what we need to do is find the center point, which is 4 1/4, but I always like to measure anyway just to make sure on both sides. Just mark it with a pencil, and then we're going to take one corner and fold it all the way to that pencil mark in the center, and then do the other side as well. And we're going to flip it and fold the other two sides. And basically this is all the folding that we're going to do. And then I'm going to show you how to attach it to your base. Now we're going to take those corners and fold them towards the inside like this. So change their direction basically. And now we're going to insert all the corners towards the inside like this. So you open it, you press against that fold line and insert that side towards the inside like this. And this will give us that explosion effect that we want. Always burnish to make sure all the folds are really crisp. and this is the effect. Oops, upside down, like this. Isn't that cool or wow? So now we're going to apply glue. I'm going to open the card base toward the top like this. Apply glue to one side of the explosion mechanism. Doesn't really matter which side. Align it in the center where the fold line meets the top point of the triangle like this. Make sure it's on the right side, and then apply glue to the other side and close the card to secure it. So now both sides are secured and it is complete. Now you can leave this card base as is, but I think I want to trim the sides. The sides are a little too large for me. I know these are the measurements I gave you, and you can leave it like that, but I'm going to trim around the card, make the edges smaller. But this is completely up to you. And of course, you can embellish the front any way that you want as well. Just measuring to see how much I need to remove, because I'm doing it when the card is closed, so I don't want to accidentally cut my explosion mechanism. So I really hope you like these wow effects for cards. You can add them to any type of card that you make. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the little bell icon to be notified when I upload a new video, so you'll be able to follow all the tutorials and make all the projects. And definitely add at least one of these wow effects to your cards. Your holiday cards, your birthday cards, any card that you make. So I want to add a little bit of text to this card, and then it will be completely ready. So thank you very much for joining me. This is part 1. Go ahead and check out part 2 with some more wow effects for amazing card making. And I will see you next time.